Malnutrition is difficult, but I posit that, I aver that it is not impossible. We can do it. And thinking about the policies associated with the planning and the implementation, good people, we are not short of policies. We are not short of strategies. We are not short of work plans. The challenge is making our plans and working our plans. Implementation. Do we have the capacity and the capacities and the requisite skills to address the problems at hand? Sometimes I feel like we are putting a square pin in a round hole and it just doesn't work. So we need to realign, streamline rather, what we do, how we do it, fit for purpose for the problem. Now, I feel like we are talking at ourselves because, there's not much opportunity for questions from the floor. That said, I would like to come back, to do one more round to ask the panelists, what are the 2 things, and I'm not saying 10, 2 things. 2. 1, 2. Okay? 2 things that must and should be done very practically. I'm not asking for a thesis. I'm not asking for academic, I'm asking practically. What are the 2 things from where you sit needs to be done? Starting with Mary. You're on the spot.
My 2 things is, let's go back to the woman. I think we've been giving her lip service without supporting her. Let's support the woman with education, with information, with facility, with time. These innovations we are talking about, let somebody think about the woman who is supposed to bring and cook and bring out this child, breastfeed this child, make the complementing food, and we will solve the problem. Let's go back to the basic. Let's educate the mothers wherever they are. Let's make life easier for them. That is one. The second thing is, I'm going to be the bad guy. I don't have a problem with that. We've been here for 2 days. We have only half a day to go. And we are talking about dietary issues. Nobody has said what should be done about the industries that are putting this sugar and this salt and this fat just for gain at the expense of the population. Why can't the policy do that? Remove that. Why can't we say no more sugar of this capacity in this, no more marketing, not even marketing. We don't have a produce like that because it's leading to diseases. If it were germs that would cause cancer, we would not allow it. Why are we allowing fat and sugar and salt, that combination that is causing the same thing? This is something policy can do. 2 things.
Okay, Mary, thank you very much. So, go back to basics, support the woman, and work on the policies. Perfect. Francesco, your 2 things?
Yeah, I mentioned already the regulatory environment. That's something which needs to be done. The policies, public health leadership and policies, that's the main thing. And we know some of those policies, we have better evidence. We're going actually, as WHO, we're going to make them into real guidelines, which are documented by evidence, so everybody can use them. That's one condition. The other one is follow the money. I agree. It's a money issue. And it's about public and private investment. The public puts a lot of money into food system. In fact, as you know, the subsidies in agriculture are #1 ODA expense, and large government expenditure goes probably not necessarily in the right direction. So alignment of public investment to the needs, the real needs in terms of nutrient needs of populations, and then the private money will follow. So public and private investment. And then we can think also of accountability systems or public transparent ways to influence those choices. So guide, for example, funds that guide investments with something similar to what has been done for human rights, for children's, for labor rights, to make the investment nutrition sensitive investment and tools to do that. So it's the rules and it's the money.
So two very clear things are basically guidelines developed and followed, fully applied. And the money, public-private investments, smart investments, and of course looking at, accountability. How much do we actually hold all the sectors that should be concerned with nutrition accountable? How much? Nutrition is not it's not the purview of any one sector. And yet, we find that for the most part, we have the ministries or the sectors of health burdened to shoulder everything that needs to be done for nutrition. But agriculture should be doing its part in terms of making sure that production is diversified, the foods are available and accessible. We are not holding other ministries, sectors rather, education, trade and industry, social protection. How are we doing in that space? So accountability by all sectors for what they should be doing is critical. Visith, your two things.
Yeah, I look in terms of the sustainability, because if we can include nutrition into the food system and it's acceptable by all stakeholders, it's going to be more sustained. But the thing is, when you include this one, you need, as you said, multi-sectoral working together. And the policy maker have to understand that if you can do it in sustainable way and nutrition come out good, it's an effect on the quality of life of the people and also effect in terms of the economics. So if you look at the NCD, it's burden many countries. In Thailand now, we feel that it's the burden now because we have the universal health service. And then people get more and more problems with NCD and they die on the bed, with long life, but bad quality of life, something like that. So this is the thing that we need to make sure that the food system is maintained in sustainable way. And you have to include all the stakeholders to understand together, work together, scientific base, right? And this way that is coming out. Second one is you have to educate consumer. Yes, this is the end of the food system, but education of the consumer is important. Now, you said our generation is too late, but maybe not. But you have to include the young generation to understand the right way of consumption and right way to do their lifestyle, not just burden with the new, technology to come in and then they change their lifestyle. So bring them back to nature more and then they understand more. But this one, when you do this kind of education, I think a lot of guidelines from many countries have been established and we have a lot to reference. But the thing is, you have to choose the one that fit to your context of the country. No one size fit all is impossible for nutrition, and the situation of every country are different. So don't just believe on somebody. Think by your own, based on the scientific base, and this gonna come out the one that fit for your needs, and then respond to your people. Yeah.
Okay, so. No one size fits all, so basically we have to cut our suits according to the size of the cloth. And the cloth seems to be shrinking by the day. I think the tailors are screaming because, it takes more cloth to make clothes nowadays than it used to be before. So, and then stakeholder engagement, particularly the youth, very critical. How do we engage the youth? How do we communicate to and with them? And then, of course, the multi-sectoral approach, food systems, very critical. Youth. Your two things, please.
I think the most important thing is the government need to set up, make it much more costly and less convenient to overconsume food. That can be done with a number of approaches, including rethink, redesign the food pricing system in a number of countries, in particular, many transition countries, which can be done by adding tax to certain food items, can by withdraw or reduce future incentives on some agriculture products, including research for the products, which may promote people overconsume some of the food items. The other thing I think is also very important, as I mentioned earlier, need to educate people, especially with the focus of young people, school children. When we look at the large gender differences in a number of health indicators, such as, for example, tobacco use, obesity, in some Asian populations, we see much higher rate of tobacco use, alcohol use among men than in women. Also take China as one example. We see the prevalence of overweight and obesity in boys doubled that in girls. In the United States, we see huge across ethnic group differences. Part of those, we can say that's because of national policies, environment. On the other hand, maybe because of some of the cultural norms, which rooted from the culture, from the very early stage education. That's what I will advocate. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think the important thing here is to think about the fact that, we've had numbers and numbers and numbers, but can we just stop for a second and put the faces to these figures? Put the faces to these numbers, because sometimes we can get too much in the weeds with statistics, forgetting that those numbers actually do translate into something very horribly wrong. Okay, and policies and looking at the environment. Last but not least, two things, not a thesis, not a dissertation, two things.
Okay.
Over to you.
Okay. So for the first one, I think for the professional capacity buildings, this I want to say dietitian. So for educate people, balanced diet must have the dietitian, because dietitian is the work for brave people is modified diet and also balanced diet. If you are diabetes and obesity, so maybe he can help you to have a low calorie diet and the meal replace, and also have another maybe many things can do, also including the behavior changes. The second one I want to say the children. I agree with Yofa. Children is very, very important to building the health choice and also the good behavior, because for the adult, it's very difficult to change their behavior. Like me, I like rice, though I don't like potato, so I cannot change for that. But for children, it's very, very easy. I think we must pay attention to the children, in the school children, to educate the food and nutrition. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So the message is catch them young while they're still pliable and amenable to change. As they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So once it's done, it's done. And the second thing is making sure that we educate people and educate them, not talk at them, but educate them. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the close of this wonderful session. It's been a pleasure. I just have a couple of things in closing to say. Yes, we can. And can in this instance refers to communication and action for nutrition. If we indeed can stamp the problem of overweight and obesity. And we should, as the theme of the conference is accelerating, there should be no inertia. There should be more velocity. Let's run fast to really deal with this problem of overweight and obesity, because it is not going to end yesterday or today unless we have a concerted effort around what policies are in place, how these policies are translated into programmatic action, and how these are implemented, and how we monitor and evaluate and keep track of our actions, of the impact, so that day by day we improve on what we do and how we do it, even more importantly. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our two keynote speakers as well as our wonderful panelists. You've been great. Thank you once again. I don't want to stand between you and the next sessions.
Bibi, can I invite whoever is interested to learn more about the Decade of Action on Nutrition? We have a side event next door in Ballroom A, so come and join. Thanks.
I love the Kodak moment. I love it. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you very much. I think I hand over to him.
Thank you very much, Bibi, for livening up what would otherwise be a graveyard shift. Thank you very much to all the speakers as well.